Imagine someone quietly escaping a room while the rest argue with a toxic person. Not with a dramatic exit, no fire, no fury, just a subtle slip away. It's the move that rarely gets noticed, but always works. Here's the twist. The smartest people don't just avoid toxic people. They outmaneuver them using a habit almost no one talks about. And it isn't blocking, ghosting, or winning arguments. It's a habit so subtle, most people mistake it for passivity. But it's the psychological equivalent of a judo flip, a move that uses the toxic person's energy against them. The curiosity. What is this habit, and why does it work when everything else fails? By the end, you'll know the one thing smart people do that makes toxic people powerless, plus how to use it yourself. But first, let's start with a scene you might recognize. It's 9:05 a.m. You're barely awake when the office chronic complainer corners you. They launch into drama about how management is clueless, the coffee is garbage, and the new hire is suspicious. Most people try to fix the mood or debate the facts. Some just nod along. Neither works. The complainer gets louder. The energy sticks to you all day. But there's a third option, almost invisible, which is the real power move. Smart people aren't just avoiding, they're redirecting. They practice strategic non-engagement. It's not about ignoring or pretending. It's about deciding what deserves your reaction. Here's why that tiny moment of choice rewires the whole interaction. Toxic people feed on reaction. Positive or negative, it doesn't matter. Your outrage, your defense, even your sympathy, fuel for their fire. But refusal to play? That's kryptonite. Take this. A 2017 study found that when targets of manipulation stopped reacting emotionally, the manipulator lost interest. Fast. It's not ghosting. It's not stonewalling. It's strategic. You're physically present, emotionally absent. Here's the weird part. This habit isn't about being cold. It's about conserving social energy for people who actually reciprocate. Most people drain themselves trying to fix what can't be fixed. Smart people budget their attention the way others budget money. Here's where it gets counterintuitive. Strategic non-engagement isn't about being passive. It's about actively refusing to enter the toxic dance. Some people see this as weak. But here's the payoff. You stay in control of your mood and your day. Now, let's zoom in on how this plays out where it's hardest. Family. You can't just walk out of Thanksgiving. But you can mentally log out. Watch what the smartest sibling does. They redirect the topic or give a neutral, non-committal response. They don't feed the fire, they deprive it of oxygen. Here's what most people miss. Toxic people need an audience. Remove the spotlight, and the performance ends. Even a silent witness can be fuel, so smart people don't just ignore. They disengage at the root. Let's get practical. How do you pull this off without looking rude? The trick is micro-boundaries, tiny limits that are invisible but unbreakable. Example, you answer the complainer with a neutral, I see. Then you move on. Or you respond with a question that changes the subject entirely. You're not a wall, you're a revolving door. The toxic person doesn't know where to push. Now, here's the ironic bit. You might never get credit for this. You'll look boring to the toxic person. Unresponsive, unfun. That's the goal. Because what you're really doing is making toxicity unrewarding. And that, in psychology, is called extinction. The behavior stops, not because you fought it, but because you starved it. But there's a catch. Extinction bursts. When you stop reacting, toxic people often escalate. Louder, meaner, more desperate for attention. This is the final test. Most people cave right here, so smart people prepare for it. They know it's temporary. If you don't feed the fire, it dies, no matter how big the last flare-up. But what if the toxic person is your boss or someone you can't avoid? This is where strategic non-engagement becomes a stealth skill. You answer only what's necessary, never show frustration, and never give extra emotion. Over time, you become invisible to their drama, so they seek easier targets. Now flip it. What if you're the manager and a toxic person is poisoning your team? Here's what most leaders get wrong. They confront, thinking reason will win. But direct confrontation is fuel, so the smart move is to quietly change what gets attention. Reward what you want more of. Ignore what you want less of. The team notices, and toxic behavior loses its audience. But what about guilt? Isn't disengaging heartless? Here's the psychological reality. Your job isn't to fix people who don't want to change. It's to protect your own mental bandwidth for the people and work that actually matter. And here's the kicker. Healthy boundaries aren't just a defense, they're a signal. They tell the right people you're safe, and the wrong ones to move on. But here's what's rarely said. Sometimes the toxic person changes when the game stops working. Not always, but sometimes losing the audience makes them rethink the act. And if not, you've still protected your own peace. So why do so few people use this habit? It's uncomfortable to be the one who doesn't play the emotional game. But that's why it works. Toxic people rely on everyone following the script. The second you improvise, the drama falls flat. So, here's the one-sentence thesis. Smart people outsmart toxic people not by fighting, but by refusing to co-star in their show. Every ignored invitation, every neutral answer, every strategic silence, it's a quiet superpower. And you can start using it before your next meeting, family dinner, or heated comment section. Because the habit isn't flashy. It isn't loud. But it's the only tactic that toxic people can't adapt to. So, the next time someone tries to drag you into chaos, remember, you don't have to fight. Just don't show up to their performance. That's the habit smart people never explain, but always practice. And if you want to know why some people never get manipulated in the first place, wait until you see how they spot toxic traits before anyone else. Let's open the curiosity loop. How do the smartest people recognize toxic patterns before the first complaint? Turns out, it's not just their response, it's their radar. Research from 2020 found that high emotional intelligence lets people pick up on microsignals, eye rolls, subtle blame shifting, or the faintest whiff of a guilt trip. They spot the early warning signs, like someone who never owns a mistake or who always has a new crisis to share. In one revealing experiment, people with high pattern awareness could predict office drama a full week before it went public. Here's the kicker. Spotting it early lets you deploy non-engagement before others even realize there's a threat. It's a silent head start, like quietly locking your door before the storm hits. But there's a second benefit most people miss. You gain allies. When you calmly disengage, healthy bystanders notice and often follow your lead. Soon, the toxic person finds the room colder, emptier, less responsive. The script fails. But here's the sneaky twist. Sometimes the real challenge isn't the toxic person at all. It's your own urge to play the fixer. We're wired to want harmony, to solve, to smooth over. But that's exactly what keeps us stuck. Research shows chronic fixers burn out twice as fast as disengagers. Here's what the pros do. When the urge to fix hits, they pause. They ask, am I helping or just feeding the cycle? And then they choose silence, or a boundary, over another round of drama. Counterintuitive, right? But the effect is real. Less stress, more sanity, and a reputation for calm that attracts the right people. Now let's dig one level deeper. What happens in your brain when you disengage? Neuroscientists found that refusing to react cuts off your amygdala's panic loop, shifting power to your rational brain. Over time, this literally rewires your default response. Less triggered, more centered. The best part? People start seeing you as unflappable, a person drama can't touch. And, quietly, you become a magnet for sanity, the go-to person for those who actually want solutions. So the next time you feel a complaint, a guilt trip, or a blame game heading your way, remember, you have a choice. You can jump into the drama pit, or you can stand at the edge, wave politely, and save your energy for people who matter. That's not just survival. It's strategy. And at the end of the day, the only person you need to explain it to is yourself. You didn't fight, you didn't run, You just didn't show up to the game. And that's the habit they never see coming.